party, we like to party, party, party all night long. Party, party, we like to party, 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 never go home. Party, party, we like to party, party, party all night long. Party, party, we like to party, 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 never go home.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 8 of the Ball Talk podcast. Tonight, we're going to recap the last couple Thunder games, give you the most important news of the day that Chris and I believe is the most important news since our last podcast, talk about a disappointing OU basketball performance, and then introduce a new segment called Sooner or Later at the end. As you heard a second ago, I got Chris with me as always. Chris, what's up?
Yep. I'm feeling nice. I'd like to learn some new words from the kids about feeling nice, feeling good. But right now I don't have it. So I'm feeling good. I don't think that's what that means at all.
I don't know either. I'm not like that. None of that makes sense. We're showing our age on the podcast already, 8 episodes in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost 40, so.
Closer to 40 than you are 0.
Oh, that's, weirdly that hurts a lot. Thanks, Ben.
That was the intent. You're welcome. And with that, we're rolling right into the most important news. Chris, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. So as we mentioned last time on the pod, Zion Williamson has come back from 27 games and played his first game, and he played pretty well. But do you know what he did the next game?
Sat.
He was suspended. It was reported that he has missed. Here, let me get it so I can fully read it. It says New Orleans star Zion Williamson has been late for multiple practices this season, on top of being late for the team's flight to Philadelphia, which other reports have said he was in line at a Wendy's. I saw on Twitter that he was in line for a Wendy's. That's why he was late. Which is what led to his 1-game suspension, just a game from being back after 27 games or whatever it is. And they call and everyone wants him to be their franchise player.
Hey, Wendy's, man. Wendy's is the place, I guess, for Mr. Zion Williamson.
Yeah, I'm more into Wimbies.
Mm-hmm. I think the rest of the NBA is too, because all we see is the Spurs on national TV.
That's true. That's very true. I think they're on national TV tonight playing the Lakers.
Yeah, they're the late
tip night. Just crazy that he comes back after 27 games and then gets a 1-game suspension the following week. Is that, like, Ben, is that the guy you would want? Like, forget, we don't have Shea, we don't have Jalen Williams, we don't have Chet. That's the guy you want leading?
Absolutely not.
He's always injured. I've said it from the drop. He's never stuck me as a guy who's gonna like be a superstar.
Well, what's crazy to me too is he was one of the players that at the start of this Thunder rebuild, everyone had circled as like, okay, when he gets unhappy in New Orleans, we're gonna trade for him. And he could not be more opposite of what this team encapsulates.
100%.
So not too upset. We're pretty set. So we don't have to go trading for Mr. Wendy's.
Yes. Wendy's Yama.
Yep. Yeah, Zion not good. Not good.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there. The Pelicans are not in a good situation because they also have Brandon Ingram, who they're looking to trade. As we mentioned in the last couple pods, it's either the worst record or second worst record in the league. And they're lucky that this draft coming up has a large amount of top end talent at the top of the draft. And so I think they're going to be looking to replace Mr. Wendy's.
Yeah, they are 8-32.
Is anyone worse?
The Wizards are 6-32.
Makes sense. We'll be talking about them shortly.
Yeah. So Ben, what's your most important news?
My most important news, and this, as we have mentioned, this is a very biased podcast. And I think I would say this even if I wasn't being biased. The Texas Longhorns will not be playing for the national championship of college football this year.
Thank goodness.
Good things do happen to people.
Goodness.
They lost to the Ohio State Buckeyes 28-14. They had a chance to go and tie the game in the fourth quarter. Honestly, Ohio State was letting them kind of stay in it. And Quinn Ewers, I don't even care if I say his name wrong now, drop back to pass on 4th and goal, fumbles it. The Ohio State defensive end, Jack Sawyer, picks it up, runs it back for a touchdown. They lose by 2 touchdowns. And a couple plays before that, Sarkisian, who is considered, I would say, the best offensive mind in football right now at the college level, even ahead of Lincoln Riley with what he's done out in L.A., ran a pitch play on 2nd down from the 1-yard line that caused them to lose. I don't remember the exact number, but they lost 4, 5, 6 yards, and they could never recover. And it's something that's beautiful to me because so many years OU made it to the semifinal. Obviously a different setup because it was just the top 4, but we lost several times in the semifinals. It's been well documented. We don't need to get too into that.
Yeah, Ben, doesn't that mean that you had a great season? You made it. You were one of the best 4 teams in the country?
No. According to the masses, specifically located south of us here in Oklahoma.
The Rio Grande, yes.
Yeah. North of the Rio.
Well, sorry, that. Oof. Cut. I never claimed to be
just north of the Rio Grande, south of the Red River.
There we go.
If you make a semifinal game and don't win it, your season, you might as well have not made the playoffs.
Right, 100. It's such sweet cosmic justice that they have only beaten 3 ranked teams, or they lost all 3 ranked teams, or what was that stat that came out?
Well, they beat us when we were ranked, but the 3 teams that, like, the considered great teams that they played was Georgia twice and then Ohio State, and they lost all 3 of those games.
Right.
They beat Arizona State in what they should have lost. They played Clemson, who shouldn't even have been in the freaking bracket as is. Shout out to your Oklahoma Sooners for knocking out Alabama to get Clemson into that. Well, they won. Whatever. Who cares? The bottom line is the Texas Longhorns are at home. I have family now that are Longhorn fans. I apologize. This is no shot at you. Boomer Sooner, life is good. We can now get back to Thunder basketball.
That's right.
Ohio State, Notre Dame, national championship game. I don't really care what happens.
I think for shout out our cousin Allison, Notre Dame grad, I think I'm cheering for Notre Dame.
That's fair.
Just because they haven't won in a while. Feels like one of those programs that needs it to stay relevant, especially them being an independent. So I'm cheering.
Freeman's a good dude.
I like Marcus Freeman, so I'm cheering.
Don't like Ryan Day.
Yeah, well, there's a part of me that doesn't like Ryan Day because Ohio State tried to do, or they did more successfully what we did with Lincoln, hire the offensive coordinator after like the storied coach left, and theirs has worked out better. So I'm a little bitter about Ryan Day staying, and
let's make sure it continues to not work out. Is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. So let's go Irish.
I think I agree with you. They did steal the play like a champion sign, so there's bad blood all over college football. OU sucks at football right now. Everything else is just moot at this point. We're going to move on from that because I'm ready to talk about things that make me feel good, and that is not college football.
Oh, what's that?
Since we last spoke, the Thunder were coming off their first loss in 15 games, or I guess, 15 games.
Yep.
Since that time, they bounced back in a huge way, 2 blowout wins. The first one was definitely unexpected a little bit. The second one was very expected. They knocked off the Friday after, so last Friday night, they knocked off the New York Knicks, who they played in a barn burner at Paycom a week before at Madison Square Garden. That game was never close.
It was hyped to be close.
Yeah, it was ESPN, or excuse me, I think it was on NBA TV, but the NBA tweeted it. They were trying to build up some momentum into, I guess, maybe carryover from the Cavs game. And also the first game between the Knicks and Thunder was very good. So they go into Madison Square Garden. Shea has 39 points in 3 quarters. He didn't play the fourth. That's how big of a blowout this was. And after this game, after this game, plus a few other games that took place between Friday and the next game on Sunday, Shea took over as the points leader in points per game in the NBA, passing Giannis and Jokic.
Losers.
We'll get to the Wizards game in a second. He didn't have to score that much in that game. The main story for me out of that Knicks game was Mr. Isaiah Joe. He had 31 points off the bench, 8 of 11 from 3, plus 31 in the box score, which is just insane to have that coming off the bench. He, as well documented by, I think, several fans on Twitter and text groups and things like that, he had not been shooting it that well this year. I think he was about 35%.
Yeah, I've heard thrown around mayor of Brick City.
Yeah, that's been dabbled once or twice in a text thread or two. He bounces back in a huge way.
Huge way.
And it goes to show why he got paid what he did and how important he is to what this team could potentially do. Because even if he's not, let's say if he goes into a playoff series and he shoots at his average that he's been shooting, not as well as you think he should, the gravity that he has in those matchups to take those, I mean, not top defenders, but at least the help defenders out of the paint away from Shea, because that threat is there because they know he can go 8 of 11 in any given game.
100%.
And I wouldn't be shocked if he had a game like that this year. And people think he didn't shoot that well last year in the playoffs. He was 40% in the Mavs series.
Yeah.
And which is a great 3-point field goal percentage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the story I think I can stretch that story across the last 2 games and really across this whole 15-game win streak is that the Thunder constantly have bench players who are stepping up to the challenge and either scoring or playing really good defense. If you're Cason Wallace, they have players, unlike it felt like in the playoffs, we didn't have any of those bench players who would come out and make a real impact on the offensive end. And it feels like we've seen that at least, twice in the last 5 games with Isaiah Joe and then Aaron Wiggins. So it feels really good to see that because it makes you feel good about the playoffs, especially, having somebody who can make 8 of 11 threes would be helpful in the playoffs.
Would have helped a lot last year, but we're moving on from that. So big win for the Thunder against the Knicks on Friday night. Moving on to, they played last night in Washington, D.C. against the Wizards. Chris, you had some family there.
Made it on
the broadcast. So shout out to Katie and Drew. This game was never really close, which doesn't give a lot of bulletin board material to talk about on a podcast. I will say the Wizards, they played in Oklahoma City on December 23rd. That game actually was pretty close. One of those games in the 14-game win streak where you could tell the Thunder were like, we're better than them, but we're just kind of out here playing.
We still won by 18 points.
Was it 18? I was going back right now to
it was 123 to 105.
Yeah. So we ended up stretching that out a little bit, but throughout that game, it felt pretty competitive. Shea had 41 that night. Going to last night's game, Shea had 27 points. The free throw merchant, this is a game that would fuel that talk. He was 16 of 17 from the free throw line.
That fire was burning bright.
Yeah, but the thing is, I just think the Wizards are so bad at defense that they just foul. Like no one can stay in front of them. They're out of position. That's when like the best offensive players are able to generate contact and get a foul call.
Right. Lots of rookies.
Said, biased podcast, but we're rolling with that storyline. Aaron Wiggins, you mentioned him earlier. He had 23 off the bench. Now some of it was in garbage time, but 23 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists from your 7th, 8th man. I mean, right now he's probably playing like your 6th man with the current roster setup.
Yeah, are those numbers, Ben, that can be stretched into 6th man of the year? Like, if he continues to put up numbers like that, does he have a chance to win an award like that?
He would have to start doing that earlier in the year. Start off that. I mean, Peyton Pritchard for the Celtics is far and away the betting favorite there. He plays a ton of minutes too. And I don't know the exact formula, but I know Wiggins has started a decent chunk of games too.
Yeah,
when they were rotating through the starting lineup. So yeah, he'd have to do this for a whole year. And it wasn't really until that Knicks game that you felt like he was really here. At least it was such a loud moment. Everything prior to that almost feels like it was like, who is this guy? I mean, New York Knicks fans were going to bed cursing the name Aaron Wiggins. And we had no idea who he was.
But we knew he has been saving basketball for years.
For years. One of the biggest storylines from that game, and Chris, I don't know if you heard it on the broadcast or on Twitter or not, Shea at one point in this game had made 51 consecutive free throws.
Not in the game, over the last whatever amount of games.
I wish it was in the game because he hasn't had 50 in a game yet. That would have gone a long way. But over the last X amount of games, he had made 51 consecutive free throws, which was one free throw made short from tying the Oklahoma City record held by Kevin Durant at 52. Really would have honestly, every record that Kevin Durant has for the Thunder, I would love if Shea overtook all of them by the end of his career. There's a good chance because he didn't play like a lot of his prime years towards the end were with Golden State. So he has a chance, but
yeah, he's part of 3 Thunder players to eclipse at 10,000 points. Him, Kevin, and Russell Westbrook. And he did that at the free throw line in this game.
Yeah, and I think so not all 10,000 are with the Thunder. He has at the time of he played his rookie season in LA with the Clippers before the Paul George trade. So he's about 900 points short, I think, give or take. He scored a few in the game afterwards. But that's a huge feat. I mean, this franchise has had a lot of success in its short time. This is also just in the Thunder the last 16, 17 years. It does not include the Seattle Supersonics history. But heck of an accomplishment. He, as Chris mentioned, he scored his 10,000th career point. So he's only like 30,000 away from being close to LeBron for all time. He might. Yeah, I mean,
and LeBron is still end of the year? LeBron's still climbing. That guy's unreal.
Yeah. Well, call back to LeBron breaking the NBA scoring record held by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar against this Thunder team 2 years ago, and what was one of the first games that the Thunder were put on national television, and people were kind of like, "Oh wait, this is a ball club."
No, wasn't Chet in that game? Wasn't it last year?
No,
it was 2 years ago.
Last 2 years ago. It was the year Chet was hurt.
Yeah,
we made the play in. But yeah, huge win. I can't remember if I said the final score, but they won 136-95. The Wizards are bad. Bottom line. What are your thoughts on Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma?
I think they are entertaining players to watch if your team is bad. But I think they are players who can go off and score 40 points a night. They're not efficient. They're definitely not going to do it every night like we saw against the Thunder. They each had under 15 points. But they are entertaining. They do funny things, I guess. They play basketball a funny way. But I think they establish a bad culture, which is the Wizards, who have all these rookies following these guys. I don't think it's very good for the Wizards organization.
I think one of the key things, and we're very spoiled in Oklahoma City, and if you paint a rebuild, it would be hard to find something better than what the Thunder have gone through. We're very lucky. But one of the things that I think back on with this rebuild is that although we were not good in the 2021-22 season, I think the year before as well was the first year of the tank. 2020-2021. There was an identity being built. There was not a lot of studs that were trying to, get some stats and get paid and get traded, go to a different team, go to a different city. The identity that was built within the team and the organization, that team played defense. They tried to run offense. I mean, obviously most of those players aren't even in Oklahoma City anymore. But
most
they
of those
laid a
players
foundation.
probably aren't on the league in the league anymore.
Exactly. But it was easy. It was fun to watch those games still. I mean, you were cheering for losses because you wanted the lottery spot, but
you remember that time we were at the Pacers game. We were sitting on the baseline in one of those seats. Not of course, obviously like higher up, but we were really, it was one of those games. The team played defense and, the offense was kind of humming that night. So we were in the game. And eventually I started cheering for the Pacers, and that guy in front of us turned around and yelled at me, telling me, why am I cheering for a loss?
And you know what? That guy should write you a thank you note for Chet Holmgren.
I was right. I was right.
I think that was the Giddey year, though. So I guess he could write you a thank you note for Alex Caruso.
That's fine.
We'll take it. That's a balding brother right there. Speaking of Alex Caruso, he's still out. He's been out for about 2 weeks now with the hip strain.
3 weeks.
3 weeks? Dang.
I think it's been about 3 weeks. 10 games or something.
Not a fan. But I am a fan if they're purposely doing this to keep his minutes in check for April and May and June. And it's giving these other guys, you see Wiggins and Joe get opportunities. The next guy I was going to touch on also fits into this before he got hurt. AJ Mitchell has had turf toe surgery. He got hurt in the Knicks game last Friday night. He's out 10 to 12 weeks, which is a massive blow, which is something I never thought I would say at the beginning of the year.
To a second-round rookie.
Yeah. From UC Santa Barbara. I mean, just a guy that you were like, okay, he'll play in the G League. We should be pretty good. I mean, we won the G League championship last year, so let's keep that going. But
go ahead.
He's one
of those. He's 3 players watch film together. J-Dub and Shea and AJ Mitchell has started watching film with those 2 guys for this year, according to Thunder Twitter. Yeah. So he's one of those guys.
They're the 3 main creators.
He's one of those guys that, I think they're great leaders. They've probably taken everybody under their wing, but it feels like a little special bond that he was starting to really play well and create and, have like 10 points a game. It was nice.
I mean, that Knicks game that he got hurt, I mean, we were down 14 at one point in the first half. He had 8 points in the first before he got hurt. There were just things that he was showing that really eased that second unit, allowed J-Dub to get off the ball, so he could kind of focus more on scoring, which, he still needs to do that as the second best player. In the current makeup of the team, I still think Chet's probably better, but as of right now, he has to go get his, and it was a much easier with AJ Mitchell on the court setting him up.
Yeah.
He'll be back by the playoffs. What I'm interested in is that he's on a 2-way contract, which is one of those 3 extra contracts that each NBA team gets where they get up to 50 games where they can basically move them. It's like a minor league system almost between the G League team and the active roster. He never got sent down to the G League, which I think is crazy.
Not one game.
Not a practice, nothing. Like Dylan Jones and Ousmane Dieng, whenever the Thunder either A, they know they have enough players, or B, are off or traveling, they'll send them down to the G League for a practice or a game and then bring them back up, especially home games because they play in the same arena. But this second-round rookie just never got that treatment because they knew he was good. Shea talked about you can just tell the feel he has for the game. Doesn't have like the craziest athletic profile, but he understood the game and still does. I say that like he's gone. But it's a big blow for him in his career, mainly because by the time he comes back, do we convert him? Did we make like the trade deadline becomes even crazier now because we'll have one roster spot that we can either trade for someone or the buyout market, which I don't really love a lot of the times, especially with this makeup. When I say the buyout market, I mean if another team pays the rest of a guy's contract currently and basically waives him and makes him a free agent in the middle of the season. That's how the Thunder in the past had gotten like Derek Fisher, Caron Butler, Randy Foye, whatever. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they still convert him, because if you're on a 2-way contract, you can't play in the playoffs.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because the other question is, does he get playing time when Chet's back on the court?
And Caruso.
Chet and Caruso are back, and you have Isaiah Joe who you paid a lot of money to, and Aaron Wiggins, who you paid a lot of money to, who are playing like they deserve that money. And it's nice to get AJ Mitchell out there, but in a playoff atmosphere, are you going to send him out there?
I mean, that's what I mean. It's a tough blow. And not only that, but whenever Chet comes back, you're sliding probably Kaysen, but if not Kaysen, then Hartenstein to the bench too.
Right.
It would have been hard, but it was definitely a luxury the team had that will be missed in these situations, and hopefully he can come back healthy and contribute not just this year but going forward, because we've documented the Thunder have a ton of draft picks coming up, and you don't want to get left behind because it'll be very easy to do so with how this team is performing now.
Yeah, and they also have their first round draft pick on the bench this year. Yeah,
Topic.
So we'll have a lottery pick, my air quotes, a lottery pick next year in Nikola Jokic, whatever his name is,
and potentially 3 others
coming in. Yeah.
Well, not 3 lottery picks, but 3 first round picks.
Which I hope Sam punts those down the road a little bit.
If he has a top 10 pick, I'd like to take a swing there.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
Class, but if you get like the 17th and 18th overall pick, which is what they currently were projected to before tonight, those are 2. They should take those picks, trade them to a team like the Knicks who don't have a first round pick for like a lightly protected first in 5 years.
Right. I
Whenever
agree.
you think that team is bad. They've done that with Denver already. So in like 2028 and 2029, we have like a top 3 protected Nuggets pick, which if Jokic is either out of the league horse racing or just tired out, whatever that roster looks like. I mean, those are the years the Thunder are truly in contention, with Shea, Chet, and Dub all being in their primes. And you're able to go in and get a lottery pick and
or
fill
even
the need.
Or even have that valuable of a pick when your team is soaring is a luxury not many teams have.
Yeah.
Probably we haven't seen that sort of luxury for a team ever. So
no, you don't see teams playing late into May and June, drafting early in the NBA draft.
No.
So it'll be interesting. We got Sam Presti, so I'm not too worried about it. But for a team, most teams that they have 3 first round picks, you're on Tankathon, you're doing mock drafts. And as a Thunder fan, I wouldn't touch that thing because you have no idea what on earth he's going to do. Whatever you do, you're going to get excited about. And it's just going to bum you out initially that your great plan was not what Presti thought. And then you remember you have a regular day job and he's Sam Presti.
Yeah.
So
he knows what he's doing.
Tankathon's fun. Don't get me wrong. Especially if the Clippers somehow bottom out. That's not happening. Currently, the juiciest pick is the 76ers first round pick, which is top 6 protected. And right now they're in that 7 to 10 range. So that's where we're looking at a lottery pick plus bringing back Topic from last year. But yeah, Thunder play the Philadelphia 76ers, that same Sixers team we just mentioned, tomorrow night in Philadelphia.
With a laundry list of injuries.
For both teams?
No, Thunder only have Chet and AJ Mitchell. Yeah, so they seem like Caruso's not on the list, so it seems like he's going to make his debut again during
his third debut.
His third debut at the Sixers game. But the Sixers, Joel's out. I can't remember. Let me look it up really quick.
Yeah, Caruso coming back is nice. We've mentioned on the pod before, this could be a fun game because Embiid is such a load to deal with. And Paul George hasn't been playing great, but he's still Paul George. And then their point guard, Tyrese Maxey, who somewhat of a connection to the Thunder. The Thunder, when they traded for the great Alexei Pokusevsky, traded up to get him at 17. And one of the picks that they used to trade up became Tyrese Maxey, who has made all-star teams. He looks like a great young player. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Chris, do you have their injury report?
I'm looking it up. Hold on just a second.
Let's see here.
Apparently I do not.
Honestly, I missed that Caruso was back. Shocking. Let's see. Game is Tuesday the 14th. So they have Embiid listed out, Drummond listed out, Kyle Lowry, KJ Martin is out, and then Caleb Martin was a game time decision. So
they're going to be super small.
Super small. Now all this can change. Like they'll update the injury report tomorrow throughout the day. So someone could get us upgraded to questionable. That's kind of what happened when Hartenstein came back against the Blazers back in December. He was listed out, and then all of a sudden at like noon, the day of the game, they're like questionable. So there's still a chance they might play, but what they're doing with Embiid, just a really tough year in Philadelphia, especially after getting Paul George. You thought you had three great players, and they were talked about up there with the Celtics and Knicks as the favorites in the East.
Right.
And it could not be going in the opposite direction.
More poorly. Yeah. The process has failed.
Currently. Yeah. The process got himself an MVP, and then we'll see if his body can hold up to do anything else in his career. And by the process, that is the nickname for Joel Embiid.
He got a gold medal.
Got a gold medal. He was eligible to play for like 4 different countries and decided to play for the USA. So I guess shout out to him for the patriotism. But yeah, bummed he's not playing tomorrow. That would have been a good test for Hartenstein. But got the Sixers tomorrow, and then the rematch Thursday night, which we'll figure out if we're potting before or after that game. But the Cleveland Cavaliers come to Oklahoma City for a rematch of that great game we saw last week, the game that ended the Thunder's winning streak. So it's on national broadcast again, big game. I really like the Thunder's odds. The Cavs have lost since then, so if both teams went out into that game, which they both are projected to, the Thunder win, they would then tie the NBA lead in terms of record. And it's just nice to kind of get one back. You don't want to get swept by a team in an NBA season if you can help it. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's kind of the last it's the last big game for a while. In terms of this Eastern Conference stretch. I mean, the Thunder have played an Eastern Conference team for like 6 or 7 straight games.
Yeah.
And it's been against the best in the Eastern Conference outside of, 1 or 2 teams here and there,
Wizards.
The Wizards, the Sixers. So it's going to be exciting. Paycom, I think, is going to be crazy. Hopefully Shea goes out, makes a statement. His MVP odds keep getting better and better. But that's a big game to go in and make a statement saying, hey, I know we lost that last game, but we're still the Oklahoma City Thunder, and we're here to win a championship.
We're here to win a championship.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, so there's your Thunder talk. Chris, you got anything else on that before we move on?
No, Thunder up.
Thunder up. At one point, we were going to talk about the OU basketball team. We can touch on them for a little bit. They've lost every game in the SEC they've played. They lost at Georgia last week. I tried to watch it. Their stud freshman, Jeremiah Fears, had 2 points. Just not fun basketball. Not the basketball that you watch at the Paycom Center in terms of level of excitement or fun.
It's turnover after turnover after turnover. It's hard. And that's the way college basketball is compared to the NBA anyways. Lots of fouls, lots of turnovers. But it seems like OU is proficient at turning the ball over, which is not something
we're so proficient at turning the ball over, we might be turning over the head coach after this year.
Nice.
Thank you. Been working on that one. But it kind of looks just like every other OU basketball season since Porter took over, where you fall in love with them in the non-conference, you start believing, and then just can't figure it out in conference play. Mm-hmm. And it's a bummer. It's a bummer because I think he's a good dude. It's kind of the same thing as Brent Venables with what we say about the OU football team. Like just a good dude, great guy. Would love for him to be the guy, but they still have to perform and go be that guy.
Yeah.
To stick around.
I think at least for Brent Venables, I'm not sure I'm on the Porter Mosier train as of right now. I will believe in Brent Venables until we get a new guy, and then I'll believe in that guy. I think it's hard to, as a fan, to have that doubt, because then you'll always have that doubt regardless of who's the head coach. So I will believe in Brent Venables. I'm a Brent Venables believer until we get a new guy, and then I'll believe in that guy.
That's Chris's official statement on his feelings for Brent Venables.
Right. Like the guy, good guy. I think he's a great defensive coach. Made a big swing at offensive coordinator. I think it'll work out. I'm a believer. I think it'll work out. If it doesn't, I'll believe in the next guy.
And if that doesn't encapsulate the University of Oklahoma athletic program, we started an OU basketball little topic, and we immediately flip it into football because that's all that matters. Except for softball and baseball occasionally and gymnastics and all the other sports that are good.
Yeah, basketball just can't seem to rise to the mat. I mean, the girls' basketball is pretty good this year.
And they've lost a couple conference games, but that's one hire I think Josie got right on the hardwood. Jenny Baranchek is the real deal. But yeah, there's your brief OU basketball talk for the evening. And before we get out of here, we're going to introduce a new little segment we call Sooner or Later. We're still working through the kinks on this, so we're kind of feeling it out as we go. But what we're going to do is I'm going to give Chris 5 things that has to do with the Thunder, OU, sports in general. And he's going to tell me if he thinks it happens sooner or later. And by sooner, really, it means does it happen this year? And he has not been told these things. So we're going to get real, raw, genuine reactions.
I'll give it to you raw.
So, number 1, Chris, will this happen sooner or later? J-Dub makes the All-Star game.
Later. I think he's going to be left off. I don't want him to. I'm a J-Dub believer and I'm a voter, but I think he is not going to make it. There's still a possibility he could, based off of like injuries or something. I believe he should be one, but I think it's going to happen next year.
It'll be close. The issue with he will be an all-star at some point in his career. The thing he has going for him this year is Chet Holmgren is not playing. And so to get that second player, one of the things, and I agree with you, I think it's very close. I will not be surprised if he does make it. There's a complex formula. I say complex. It's 50% of the All-Star voting is the fan vote that people push, and you go online and pick the players you want, and then it's divvied up from there from media and coaches. And so he's 7th in the front court. Who's ahead of him? I mean, he's kind of locked into 7th. It's the Rockets guys. It's the Grizzlies guys. Alperen Sengun and Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. But we'll see. I think it could happen, but I kind of lean your way. I don't know if that's just protecting my feelings, so I'm not disappointed. But the Thunder have such a good record that there's a chance the coaches and the media make sure he gets in.
I'd agree with that.
Injury replacements too and stuff like that. You don't know.
That would be guys. I don't see many guys turning it down, but if like a guy turns it down, I could see J-Dub being on that team. But is it Eastern and Western Conference this year? How's the All-Star game even broken down this year?
The voting's still Eastern and Western, but then the actual game is divvied out between 3 teams from the All-Star voting, and then the team that wins the Rising Stars Challenge. I think it's either the team that wins the Rising Stars or just the G League team. I'd have to go back and check. We'll look that up and get back to you guys on that. But different All-Star format, but still just as prestigious to make it. And I hope he does. But moving on to the second sooner or later, Chris, sooner or later, someone other than the Boston Celtics comes out of the Eastern Conference to make the finals.
The Cavs are going to have to prove it. The Knicks, I'm looking at the conference standings right now. So you got Cleveland up top. They could, but Donovan Mitchell's kind of lollygag not lollygag, that's a bad word for it. He hasn't shown that he can do it in the playoffs just yet. He's made it past first round, but I can't, unless Milwaukee, unless it's, the playoffs are just so crazy that it could happen just by one series. They're not shooting well, and Giannis has a great series. I could see that happening, but more than likely, Boston's going to come out, and hopefully the Thunder come out of the West, and it's a Boston OKC finale.
I'd agree. I think it's later on that one. Until Boston doesn't do it, I have a hard time believing someone else does.
Right.
Cleveland's playing great. We lost to him last week, as we mentioned. Play him on Thursday. It'll be a great game. But the playoffs are different. It's a different kind of game, and the Celtics obviously have gone and done it. So I agree. I agree on that. Next, we're going to go over to the NFL. Chris, anyone sooner or later, anyone other than the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year?
The Chiefs just know how to win this year. I mean, I think I've saw something that if they were to flip one-score games to go the opposite direction for each team, the Chiefs would be like 2 and whatever. They would have won like 2 or 3 games. So I think sooner. I think the Chiefs don't win it this year. I mean, what would be their third in a row?
Third in a row and 4 in the last 5, I think.
Yeah, I think if they do it, I mean, hats off to them. Hats off Creed Humphreys, big OU guy.
Yeah, they got 3 or 4 OU guys on that team. So
I would like. Isn't James Hanna on that team?
No, James Winchester.
The
long snapper.
Right. I would say. I'd say sooner. Someone other than the Chiefs wins the Super Bowl this year. I think that's just a pretty safe bet in general.
I think it's closer than you think. They got to get through. They played the Texans this weekend, and then the winner, if they win that, the winners of the Ravens-Bills game, and then whoever comes out of the NFC it's looking like the Lions are the team to beat, but Philadelphia is there too. So it's going to be interesting. It's never easy, and you hear a lot of Chiefs talk around these parts. So I'm kind of with you. I might be on the Lions bandwagon this year. Sorry.
Oh,
Mom.
see, I'm on the Bills bandwagon.
Oh, to throw Tim through the table. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I got 2 teams, I guess. Next, 4 or 5. This one has to do with OU football. Chris.
Gotcha.
Sooner or later, you will be all in on OU football by fall camp.
Sooner. I might be all in right now. This is I talked to all of our friends before the Tennessee game, and I thought we were going to embarrass them. I thought we were going to kill them. That didn't happen, obviously. I was disappointed, and then I was back in like Tuesday. I was ready to win again. So
you can get in with 3 losses to the playoffs.
You could tell me one thing about OU football that's positive, and I'd probably already be back in. I'd buy in. Like John Mateer, I'm bought in. Like I'm bought in until we lose our first game, and then I'll buy in the next week.
Not even the next week. I give it like 2 days.
Yeah, my chips are all in.
Yeah, you just need Sunday to like kind of sit around and process, and then Monday when Brent's press conference is airing or what his coach's show, you're like, okay, yeah, we got this.
Yeah, the silent confidence that he provides does make me feel good. Yes, so I'm
very nice.
I'm Sooner.
That was you're Sooner on the Sooners
because I'm a Sooner, right?
Fair. That was my guess on what you would go with.
What about you, Ben? By fall camp.
I mean, like,
it's a long time to forget.
My issue is the just negative emotion that football team made me feel this year is stronger than any feeling I've had in a while about OU football. And so I will verbally get people hyped up and be like, we're back, baby. We're so back. And buy into it. But I also will be like, are we?
Right.
Are we back?
I mean, till we see it.
Yeah. So probably later. I'd have to see us win a conference, like go 4 or 5-0, beat Michigan this year. I'd have to see something. So I'll go later on that one.
Gotcha.
And lastly, to cap off the pod, sooner or later, Chris, so this year or in the future, call your shot.
Oh, you want a time? You want a time?
No. It's either this year or in the future. The Oklahoma City Thunder win the NBA championship.
Well, this is a biased podcast. Later. I can't buy in totally, like we've talked about, even with the Cleveland Cavaliers, until they do it in the playoffs. I can't fully buy in. I mean, I fully bought into the Thunder, but the idea that we're going to win the championship this year makes it a little more difficult. I'd have to see us go to the conference championship and maybe the finals. But I think I do see it in the future, the next 5 years for sure. If everyone stays healthy, if everything goes right, they can definitely win multiple championships in the next 5 years. But this year, a lot of things would have to go right, which they might. They still might.
See, that's what's crazy. The safe bet is later. I mean, like you said, we've only been in one playoff series, and we've won one playoff series, and that series was against a Zion-less Pelicans team that just wasn't the team that actually made the playoffs due to injuries and things like that.
Right.
Played well against the Mavs. I mean, that series, the same amount of points were scored by both teams. It's just how they were scored in each game. So pretty level series for a 6-game series. But I think we should get to the finals. Winning it, it's one of those, like, you just have to catch lightning in a bottle. Everything bounces right. Matchups coming out of the East, how they're playing. Later is what I would go with, but if it ends up being the Sooner, which I think is more likely than a lot of people thought in terms of this year being the year that we could go win a championship. If they win a championship this year, the talk in Oklahoma City is going to be
insane.
Like, let's go win 5 straight.
Why not?
That's what it would be.
Why not?
And you're talking about the next Warriors dynasty, like that level of, like, the NBA hates us.
Right, 100%.
Sign me up for that. I want all the hate.
Definitely want to be a part of that. I mean, we win 3 in a row. We're in the fourth finals championship. This OU could lose every game for those 4 years, and I think I'd be okay.
Yeah,
I don't want to say that because I wouldn't be okay. I wouldn't be okay, but
the first half of every season you'd be
devastated,
having a hard time at the tailgate. But we just throw on Thunder highlights. Is what we did this year. That we beat Alabama.
That's right. That is true.
A direct correlation.
I think, yeah, if they go on and have this, what is almost kind of expected of this team, this young team, with this much buy-in, with this much love for each other, you expect them to go and have one of those Warrior-type dynasties. That would be incredible. That's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing as a sports fan, and some people don't get it. So yeah, it'd be like
we might not get it. It's not guaranteed by any means.
Yeah,
so.
I will say, yeah, not guaranteed, but something to hope for.
We're winning a championship in the next 5 years. I'm calling my shot. It's the weakest shot I've ever called because I believe that firmly in this team. OU football's another subject completely. But yeah, with that, Chris, first segment of Sooner or Later, not bad.
I liked it.
Not bad. We'll come up with some more stuff, see what we can do with that. If you have any tips or anything out there on what you might want to hear on that, let us know. But with that, Chris, anything else you want to say to the people before we head out tonight?
No, that's it. I'm all good.
All right. Appreciate everybody listening, and we'll talk to you later this week.
All night long, party, we like to party, all night long. Party, we like to party, never go home. Party, we like to party, all night long. Party, we like to